Once upon a trail, 6 friends take a trip to the woods. That's not exactly how it started, though. Things didn't go as expected. The story starts at a familiar place for me, a campground in Lincoln, New Hampshire that I used to go to when I was a kid in the Pemigewasset River. My family used to take me here when I was little, and it was just a special place for me with a lot of memories, so I was happy to take some friends to see this place for the first time. The original plan was to hike a mountain, and unfortunately I was dealing with some injuries, so I was worried about my ability to actually get up the mountain. My wife took this video of me struggling on the rocks on this very river. Here it is. So I had a bone bruise in one foot and Achilles tendonitis in the other. I was not having a good time. I soaked my feet in the icy cold water and tried to stretch out the tendons and ligaments on the rocks and tried to almost beat myself into submission so I could be good to go for the mountain. And you know, I've got a pretty good tolerance for pain, so I decided, fuck it, let's give it a go. I didn't tell anybody that that was something I was dealing with, but it's, you know, my own foolishness. It didn't actually affect the mountain, though. Didn't affect this either. At the campground, there's a bit of a game room, so we could play a few games, a few arcade games, air hockey. It was mostly made for kids, but we were the youngest people on the campground. All the kids are back at school. So we had ourselves a bit of a pool tournament. Alex's boyfriend Jay was kind of a ringer. We weren't expecting it. He came out of nowhere and schooled everybody. The only thing that really kept him from winning every single game was the one-ball curse. At the end of every round, whoever had solids could just not manage to sink the one ball. I'm pretty sure I won 2 out of 4 games, maybe 3 out of 4. Honestly, I don't really remember. Anyway, the goal was to hike the Webster-Jackson Trail up to Mount Jackson, then loop around to Mount Webster, and that's what we started off doing. But things kind of fell apart as my wife kind of ran into some issues. A new medication had caused a weird side effect that we weren't expecting, and there really wasn't any way for us to continue. I let the other group continue on forward while we took our time and stayed near the back. And while she felt bad about it, things kind of worked out really well. For starters, I found just this awesome area with these tall rocks, this scramble. The trail went up high, but we decided to peel off and hang out just off the trail. We were on the side of the mountain about halfway up, and we could see the peaks in the distance through the trees. It was nice, it was quiet, it was relaxing. I laid down in the soft, mossy soil, comforted by pine needles, and we just talked, and we relaxed, and it was maybe some of the most relaxing moments I'd had in maybe a year. I felt so at home, and she started to feel better too. Our friends that had continued on actually had to double back too. They had some minor injuries. One of them had hurt their foot, the other one had bumped their head, and it just wasn't as fun as what we were hoping it to be. But don't worry, we will be attempting this again, maybe when everyone's feeling a little more awake. But something happened after that. We took advantage of the moment, and we decided to go on a bit of a road trip to find smaller trails to do, and we wound up accidentally stumbling upon Diana's Baths. We found these weaving waterways and creeks that all wound up converging in one place, which is Diana's Baths. There had been a bit of a drought lately, but that didn't dissuade us from having fun. Didn't dissuade me from contemplating jumping in. We had lunch there, and it was one of the nicest lunches that we'd ever had. We decided that we would make this a sort of waterfall adventure. We decided to look for any and all waterfalls in the area that were relatively close to drive to the trailhead from the campsite, and also, something that wasn't terribly difficult for us to hike with some hobbled injuries. On the Pemigewasset Highway, we came across some phenomenal views. These are views I'm very familiar with, but in late September, we started to see peaks of that beautiful fall foliage, just peeking through the trees. It was especially a fun thing to see Julian and Travis experience it, because them being from Arizona and New Mexico respectively, this was not anything that they were used to. This was not something that they grew up seeing, so it was really magical to experience that for the first time vicariously through them. I'd taken Britt up here before, and while we never got to see this, not on her first trip anyway, we got to see plenty. And then there were the little friends that we kind of met on camp, off trail, here, there, and everywhere. These fuzzy little white caterpillars are white hickory tussock moths. They'd been kind of hanging out with us throughout the whole weekend. It's not a good idea to touch these little caterpillars. Unfortunately, they do cause skin irritation with their poisonous hairs. But pretty fun to watch crawl along. But it wasn't just them. We heard non-stop chirping from these little red mountain squirrels. I ventured out into an island in the river, and this little guy was screaming at me forever. And then not long after, I came across this little guy standing on a rock by the other side of the river, just staring like, "You recording me?" Wait, you're recording me? I didn't give permission for this. I'm out of here. The next day we went down to the flume. The flume was something that I had seen when I was very little, and honestly, I didn't remember that much about it. I'm glad we did come, though. We showed up right at the end of the day. We thought we wouldn't be allowed in, but the people at the door, they said as long as you get in by 5, you can take as much time as you like. So, thankfully, we were among the only people there. The Flume Gorge was just this spectacular, narrow canyon. Despite the drought, the water was flowing. The rock formations were gorgeous. There were little caves everywhere. Alex and I crawled into a tiny little cave.
Nah. Professional panda? Hell yeah.
And then there were these nice little walking trails. The walking trails were pretty steep. They would often part the trees for spectacular views. It felt nice to be back on the trail again after the mountain had defeated us just the day before. This little 2-mile loop, it was a refreshing pace change. No stumbling over roots or rocks. But we weren't done. Not for a long shot. One of the cool features was the bowl. You'd cross this covered bridge, and there it is, a massive, massive bowl in the rock. 150 feet wide, 40 feet deep. Frigid cold waters, still worthy of a stop. And then we came to the wolf den. Alex, Travis, and Julian went through. I unfortunately didn't want to risk it. I'm a little bigger in body, I didn't feel like getting stuck. But I was able to capture them coming out the other side. Apparently they even just barely squeezed through, so I think I made the right call. What can I say? I'm built for comfort, man. And then we capped things off at the flume by hanging out with this tremendously high moose. I mean, he's got to be high, right? The evenings were filled with fire and food. I cooked the food each night, maintained the fire. We had some drinks, had some snacks, told stories, talked about our lives. And we just sat there connecting with each other. Humanity at its simplest form. Distilled life. Just a small tribe of people in the woods, under the stars. Even though things didn't go exactly how we planned, eventually it became something better. It became unique. It became a testament to the willingness to continue, powering through injuries, hiking your own hike, listening to your body, but more than anything, just enjoying time in nature. Thanks for listening, thanks for watching, but thanks for one more thing. Thanks for supporting our public spaces, for our public lands, our national parks, our state parks. Our nation's beauty is at stake. Reach out to your local, state, and federal representatives and leaders to demand that they protect our parks, our nature, our wildlife. Donate if you can. Here's a few good sources you should go to. Thanks.